Hey friends, I'm Daniel Nesbitt, and welcome back to Glyphs. We're moving away from Glyphs Mini, and I'm back in Glyphs, and I wanted to kind of create a little bit of a short series here. So one of the things that I've been playing around with in Glyphs 3.0 is the pixel tool. Now, I'm pretty sure this isn't new to Glyphs 3. I'm actually pretty certain that Glyphs 2 has it. I just never got around to using it in Glyphs. But pixel fonts have always kind of intrigued me a little bit because it's just a fun, different way of creating fonts. And especially if you're beginning out, this could be a really easy way to start creating some typefaces that actually look pretty decent, and you really don't need to worry a whole lot about things like curves and all that other kind of stuff because you're effectively working within a fixed grid. For those who are a little bit older, such as myself, you may recognize a lot of this stuff from old 8-bit video games, but I think there's kind of a fun nostalgic factor to this, and I thought it would be fun to just give this a shot. So we're basically just going to go through. I'm not exactly sure how far I'm going to get in this video today, but I figured I'd just take everyone along for the journey here and have a little bit of fun with setting up and building a pixel font. So before we get started, there are a couple things that we do need to get set up in Glyphs before we can make a pixel font work. The first thing I'm going to do is go up to my font info button here, which is the I, or I think you can do Command I on your keyboard. And under the other tab, the first thing that Glyphs is going to be looking for is to have you adjust the grid spacing. Now, as I understand it, grid spacing needs to be more than 100 units. It can be at least 100, which is what I'm going to do. And effectively, this, I think, if I'm doing my math right, then in our M box, which is currently set to 1,000 units, this basically just gives us a grid of 10 by 10, if we want to think about it in pixels. So that way, we're kind of snapping things to that pixel grid like we would expect a pixel font to work with. So that's step one, and that's all we need to do there. The second thing that Glyphs is going to be looking for is something to reference as our pixel. Now, the easiest way to do this is if we go to Glyphs and we add a new glyph, we're going to create a new glyph and we're going to call it pixel, and we'll hit OK. And then in my other row here, you'll notice that that pops up and it is selected here. Now, the thing is with pixels, it could just be the traditional square like you would expect it to be. But what I like about this is if you really want to get adventurous with what your pixel font looks like, this could be a different shape. So there's a lot of neat stuff that you can do with it. But for me, I'm just going to basically create a 100 by 100 square here. It is literally a pixel on my screen. And then after clicking that, the next thing I'm going to do is just take my side bearings there and trim that to 0. So I just have effectively a pixel is exactly what it's looking for. And that's really all we need to do to get started. Told you it'd be pretty easy, right? So the first thing I'm going to do then, or I guess next thing I'm going to do is pop over to one of my letters. I usually like to start with the lowercase n. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go up to the pencil tool. And if we click and hold on that, you'll notice that it gives a little pop-up window here, and the pixel tool is what we're going to be after. So with the pixel tool selected, you'll notice that it brings up the grid here. If I switch back and forth, sometimes that grid pops on and off, and I'm not exactly sure why it does that, but hey-ho, there we go. But effectively, we're ready to go now. So this is going to work pretty easy. You'll see in a moment. All I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, and as I do that, you'll see that I'm on my way to creating a pixel font. So that's more or less everything you need to get started with this. And you can actually create some pretty cool stuff here. The side bearings we'll probably want to keep to the grid. But I think that looks pretty cool. This is actually kind of fun. Who knows, I might get through this pretty quick, but that's fine. So yeah, and what's interesting too is it looks like it's creating, it's almost like components, which is kind of neat. So if I double click on this, yeah, I can go back. And so, let's see, what does that, okay, yeah, there we go. That's what I thought it would do. So that is kind of cool. You can kind of create different shapes or things of that nature. That is pretty neat. All right. I won't get too carried away with that. So we'll just get back to my tool here. And yeah, we're just going to see what we can do with this. So truth be told, I haven't really used this before. I mean, I'm just kind of guessing at what I need to do here, but so now if I want to delete, it looks like I just need to grab my selection tool here, and then I can go back and adjust things. One thing I like about this right away, and I'm sure this this might be something that I need to look more into as I go, but I think kerning and spacing is actually going to be pretty easy on this, which I am all about. So for an M, maybe something like that. That looks kind of funky. What if I do something like that? What's interesting is this actually gets me thinking about letters in ways that I've never thought about before. I've never designed to such a grid in the past. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my preview. I know this might get really small on your screen, but at least on mine it makes a little bit more sense that way. So the tough part, so what's interesting, already one of the challenges I see here is with the N, I've got 300 units, I guess, of space here, 3 pixels of space. With the M, usually I would condense this a little bit more, and you know, I guess effectively it would be like 2 pixels of space if that was a thing. But I don't get that here. So I'm trying to debate, because the other thing I could do, I suppose, would maybe be do something like that, but I kind of like having that curve to it. I'm also afraid that by moving it out, that my my M would start to feel too wide. It would look good, but it would just be too wide. But that looks kind of funky. Well, maybe not. Well, for the sake of keeping things moving, we're just going to leave that for now. So what else? I know I've got I've got my cap locks on. Let's stick to one case here for the moment. But there's some pretty basic things here, such as the I. I think that looks pretty good. Jump over to the L. Should actually, let's see here. Pixel tool is X. I'm big into shortcuts on my thing here, so trying to remember that. So not too bad. Now for the O. So my N was 5. I'm just going to say 5 pixels wide. So I need to think about how that translates to an O, because I'm going to want something like that. But that looks kind of weird, doesn't it? And that's actually 6, not 5. What else can we do here? So if I did 3, maybe something like that. So that's 4. I think it actually doesn't get us too far off where I want to be. I'm sure too, I know I'm not really reinventing anything spectacular here. Just because I know someone out there might look at this and go, hey, that looks like this particular font or something like that. Really, I'm just playing around and having fun, because I've never actually worked with this before. So yeah, actually that's not too bad. Now I suppose for something like the Q, I could actually just, or will it let me? Or sorry, I don't want the Q, I want the P. There we go. So if I just move that around, I mean, that's not too bad. And then for the B, I think I'm just going to take this. Maybe do it that way there. Something like that. And then I'm just going to do the same trick here where I take one, flip it, and then I get the other. So yeah, already that's actually looking pretty good. Better than I was expecting, if I'm honest. I'm going to jump over to the J. Actually bring my I back for some reference here. For something like this, I think... would it maybe be fun to do something like that? Does it need to? Actually, it probably doesn't even need to go that much. My hesitation is I think that looks too square. This is kind of a fun challenge because it really makes you stop and think. You know, how are you gonna build these letters when you only have so many units or so much space to work with? So I think for that makes sense for that. For the T, probably just run it like that. I'm actually making my way through this a lot quicker than I thought, which is perfect, really. For something like the E, so we know we need that, and that. And I know I can get away with 5. I don't want it to go that far out. The tail. Well, so another challenge here is it would be nice to have this curl up here, but I think some of this too is going to be me fighting my grid a little bit. That is going to be a challenge, which is fine. If I actually took more time to really sit and think about what I'm doing here, maybe I would have done something a little bit different with my grid, but that's fine. It's we're getting there. For the G, I don't think I have enough to create a 2-story G, and that's fine. But what I'm going to do is we're going to see maybe something like that. No, I don't think I want the corner there. We'll just leave that out, which then begs the question. Yeah, I think I like that more on the B and D, just to kind of make it look a little bit more round on the bottom there. So just jumping back to the G, we're just going to get my side bearings. We'll jump over to the R. So if I go back to the N, just as a reference for this. So I know with an R, I'd usually go something like that. Again, with that challenge, I can't drop this down as far as I'd want to without it looking awkward. So again, that might be something that I have to just kind of acknowledge that that's going to be what it is. So for the S, I think that'll be easy enough. So yeah, again, this is just kind of my challenge a little bit, is just figuring out where and how do I push these things. Where's too far, do things kind of get too far out of control or not? Because I feel like something like this. So one of the things that I know about the S that I'm thinking about as I'm drawing this is usually the bottom is a little bit larger than the top. And I want to have it end like it's that half pixel challenge that I've got going on here. I think I may just leave that for now, and maybe we just kind of come back to that. Oh, I just noticed. Interesting. So apparently if I keep I've been deleting this the whole time, but apparently if I just keep the pixel tool active, it's like an on-off switch. That's actually really handy to know. What if I did something like this? Nah, that actually might be a good shape for the Z. And since we're talking about that, might as well just go ahead and do that. That was mildly unexpected, but I'll take it. Since we're on challenging letters, I'll just kind of get some of these out of the way here. I knew the V was going to be pretty easy, truth be told. W. So again, the W might be a similar challenge to what I had to the M. So the M, I did two units of space between everything. Widen that out so we can see what we're doing here. But I'm wondering, that might actually work. The nice part about the W here is that I don't have the same challenge as the M, where I've got that little the initial line going down there, so we'll take advantage of that. So that's not too bad. Jumping over to the Y, it's probably... I'm throwing out a few letters here just to kind of get a feel for what I might want to use. But I'm thinking that probably goes up something like that. Yeah, again with the challenge there, that looks a bit bulky. That's kind of fun. I don't know what I'm expecting, honestly. And the other thing too is I'm kind of zoomed in a little bit, so oh, I don't have a name. We can fix that right now. I think for the A2, the easiest solution here is going to be something like that. Yeah, I'm not in love with it, but I mean, we've kind of got an A going on there. I don't think I've ever raced through a font this fast either, which is kind of funny. But I'm enjoying it, so it's got that going for it. For the X, we're just going to probably just take the obvious choice there. I guess that actually worked out a lot better than I thought. That actually works out pretty well. I was actually hoping I could have done something a little bit more. Whoops, I'm trying to figure out my tools here. I was actually hoping I could have done something a little bit more exciting with that, but I mean, it's not terrible either. I mean, this is a pixel font after all. There's going to be things that we're just going to have to make do with, but that's fine. So for the K, that might be okay. Just like that. That's kind of what I was hoping for. Side note, it was what I was hoping for with the X, was maybe to do something fun where it's kind of got that shape there. But I think that actually kind of works out. Again, with the whole, this isn't going to be 100% perfect, but I think that's fine. So let's go next to uppercase. I probably should just acknowledge now that this may be a longer video, but that's okay. And I think we're just going to stick with kind of the same deal here. Now, I'm trying to debate because pixel fonts, yeah, again, I'm kind of caught on that half step thing. I mean, the other thing that I'm looking at too is I've got, usually my capitals would be a little bit shorter than my lowercase ascenders, and what's going through my mind is that still a good idea or not? We're just gonna go ahead and say it is for the time being, just to keep things moving along a little bit, but we'll see how it looks in the end. I may decide that this is not what I want. I'm also gonna have a little bit of fun and do something different with the L there. Since we're also focused on some things here, I think the O is going to be exactly what you think, where we just make a taller version of the lowercase. I'm going to widen it out just a tad. I know that gets into 6. Does that look good to adjust that out more? Good question. It might not be such a bad idea to I'm just trying to put some, yeah, I think I'm gonna actually extend my uppercase out. So rather than doing 5 units across, we're actually going to give myself 6 just to make those a little bit wider. And usually that's probably what I would do. So then going into something like the P, again, it's probably something like that. Set that width, and then the R. Now for the R, maybe go something like that, just to we don't want to do that, but that might be all right for the R. This is partially me just figuring things out as I go. I'm also just debating if that works. But I think it will. It's again, this is like the challenge is, I'm not used to working on such a structured grid like this before. What other challenges might we have? So we've got the H. I guess we could probably look at the F and the E. So maybe if we just do... It may just actually be that easy. I think there's some of me expecting some of this to be a little bit more of a to-do, but truth be told, sometimes maybe the easiest solution is the best solution here. And it seems to be working that way for me. Jumping over, if we do O, C, and G. So, for the G, let's kind of wing it, something like that. And then for the C, we're more or less going to do the same thing. I'll work on my spacing here in just a sec. Maybe not 1100, maybe just 100. But I think that kind of works, actually. And then jumping over to the D as well. The fun part with this is you can really like crank through some letters like very, very fast here. What's also a weird feeling is that I'm not having to sit and spend so much time thinking about some of this stuff. Oh, that Q looks pretty cool. That's actually kind of fun. For something like the N, now I know I've got those two. Again, it's... If you're watching this and you're asking yourself, is this fun? It absolutely is. And if you have glyphs, even if you're really not looking to use this for a serious kind of project, it actually is a lot of fun to play with. I mean, I literally had no expectations going into this. So, let's see here. It certainly does create a little bit of a challenge too, because I'm running into issues that I normally wouldn't if I was using a pen tool. Let's see here. So the T actually goes back to 5. And so this is a challenge because the T... 7 feels too wide. 5 is something I prefer to have a little bit narrower. But the thing is that I can't do 6 because I can't divide that easily. So there's a challenge. For the U, that looks more like a V, which I don't want. But since I made that mistake, let's tackle the V. Turn that into a positive here. So, even go a little bit more like that. Kind of creates a soft V, which is pretty neat. Again, that gets us into the W, which for the W, I think we can kind of do something like this. There we go. Just bringing back the M for comparison there too. Actually, when I'm looking at the M, I think I'm actually going to bring this down a little bit. I think that kind of helps it out some. Yeah, we'll keep it like that. Oh, what else do we have? The B. This is probably a fun little challenge here. So I know I've got these two. Actually, wasn't the challenge I thought it would be. Since I used the word B. Not terrible. Let's jump back over to the A since we were pretty close to that. So effectively, I'm just going to be flipping that upside down. Give myself a little bit more space to the side there. That's probably all that's going to need. Jumping over to the X. So for something like this, probably could just make something like that work. And again, I think this is going to be a similar challenge to the T, where it's going to look a little bit thin. Actually, I'll back up on this one. I might be able to actually make that wider. So if we do something like that, maybe that works a little bit better. I can use that to get my width that I want. I think that'll work. For the Z, kind of doing this a little bit backwards from how I did it earlier, but that's fine. Yeah, I think that should work like that. I am kind of learning. Honestly, I didn't put a whole lot of thought into my grid here, just to start this, which is fine. Yeah, that S is going to be pretty easy too. Never thought I'd say that on this stream, is that an S is easy, but there we are. That's the easiest S I've ever drawn, and you were here to watch it. Something like the Y, I think, again, this might be a similar situation to the T, where it kind of forces my hand because I need that central space there, and I really didn't want to have it curve down or do anything like that. I just kind of wanted a straight up and down Y. We're actually getting pretty close here, so that's pretty encouraging. For the J, we're just going to do something simple like that, which actually fits in pretty well. And then the K, knowing that I have some space to work with here, maybe it's something like that. If I put the H next to it, kind of use that as my barometer, I don't think that's too bad. And then again with the K, it kind of all seems to fit in pretty well. So no worries there. Yeah, I would say that's looking pretty cool. I guess for the sake of kind of making everything neatly into one video, fit everything neatly into one video here, I might as well just go through and I guess this will maybe just be a little bit longer than my usual videos, but let's go through and make some numbers while we're at it. And for those, I mean, that's going to be what I would assume to be pretty easy. It's definitely a fun exercise. That's for sure. I can't say that I've ever worked so fast on a font before. It actually kind of feels wrong that I'm effectively doing one font now in a video, which I'm okay with. Hopefully you are too, that you've been enjoying this. But yeah, it kind of goes to show that, you know, I know I get into things like, you know, vectors and all this other kind of stuff on this channel, and just to have kind of a basic or a simple alternate way maybe of creating some fonts here or some type, it's pretty encouraging, I think. Since this is a pixel, I'm just going to own that. That is a little bit wider than the others, but I think that is okay by my book. And then for this, go up. Again with the half pixel thing. I'm actually curious now. I mean, there must be some kind of rules or something like that to go along with what you should or shouldn't do for stuff like that. I'm just gonna let that marinate. It may be after this episode that I go back and decide what I want to do with that, but yeah, the 6 worked out pretty easy. And actually, since the 6 worked out pretty easy, not the F, let's try that again. I always forget I have to spell it out. You don't get to use the cheat there of just punching the number in. For the 7, I guess that works like that. And then for the 8, just kind of feels like the traditional scoreboard 8 there. But there we go. So that was actually pretty cool. And then punctuation. I guess we're kind of on the home stretch. So period's going to be pretty easy. What else do we got? We've got a comma. For the comma, we're going to kind of let it drip down like that. Got a hyphen in here. Can just make that 3 pixels across. And I believe that's everything. So yeah, the other would be the punctuation dots. So I do have the separator here, and the way that I would deal with spaces here is if I just type in a sentence, we'll just say the quick brown fox. Make sure I push all my buttons here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit that space and then effectively just kind of eyeball. I don't think more than 3 pixels is really necessary for something like this. But I think that actually works out pretty good. So with a little bit of work, I mean, there we go. We've got a pixel font, which is pretty neat. And one thing that is really cool about this as well is, you know, if we go through, we just got rid of that. This was actually something that I was curious to see. So if we switch that to a circle, yeah, it really has some difficulty with that. You definitely get some cool shapes though, but it seems like, at least on this grid, that really my only option is to actually make a pixel. But I mean, that was actually a lot of fun. You know, I don't know what I would do with this beyond here. You could definitely expand this, maybe create some bolds or extendeds. Maybe there's variable font options here that could be fun to play with. Maybe bring a little bit of technology into something like this. What I will say though, and actually an announcement that I do want to make to my YouTube channel formally, is that I have been open sourcing some of the fonts that I have been designing on this channel. And if you go to github.com/Daniel Nesbitt, and I will have a link in the description below if that's easier to click for you, you will find my source files for both the Glyphs sans serif and the extended Glyphs mini serif that I created in the last series. I'm also going to go ahead and include this pixel font as well if you want to play around with this, kind of see what I did, maybe expand it a little bit, play with it, make it your own. You're free to kind of do whatever you'd like with this. I think it's a very valuable part of the learning process if you're looking to get into type design. So hopefully some of you out there may find some use in that. And if you do use any of the fonts that I do have on my GitHub, if you expand it or anything like that, definitely hit me up. Let me know what you're coming up with. It's not really a full requirement. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want and never tell me, but at least for me, it's always exciting to see where people are taking some of these things as they kind of play around with them, make it their own. So, yeah, I will definitely leave a link in the description for that. And while you're at it, if you wanted to know about stuff like that a little bit earlier than this video, make sure you go ahead and sign up for my newsletter as well. I have a newsletter called Letterform. I usually aim to send that out at least once or twice a month. It's got all sorts of tips and tricks when it comes to drawing letters, making type, announcements like the open source stuff. It's also got some announcements for workshops that I will have coming up throughout the year. And yes, there will be a lot more of those. I've been partnering with some great folks, including those at the League of Movable Type, which you definitely don't want to miss out on because we've got some really awesome workshops in the works coming up. So if you sign up either Letterform or at the League of Movable Type, you can be the first to know when those classes are open for registration. So that is my spiel for the day. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm not exactly sure, like I said at the beginning, if I'm going to do any more beyond this, but if I do, I guess maybe we'll make it a little bit of a series. But if not, rest assured, I am working on some ideas for a new longer series similar to what you're used to on this channel. But if you do have any ideas, comments, or suggestions on what you want to see in future episodes, make sure to hit the comment section below this video. And as always, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe so you never miss when a new video comes out. So, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next episode.